You know, if you can't operate heavy machinery as a result of consuming something, maybe you shouldn't consume it in the first place. It's no secret here on this channel that I absolutely hate alcohol and I can't stand the thought of being around it. I've also stated how I'm not particularly a fan of marriage in the 2020s, and you can look up all the other reasons that men are walking away from marriage that I may or may not fall into the category of, mostly because the divorce rate being where it's at, I don't think it's worth the risk. Another reason I don't want to get married is because I would be likely pressured into having a wedding, which would have alcohol, and I would likely not be able to find a woman I would be willing to marry who would be on the same page as me about an alcohol free wedding. However, according to the Wall Street Journal, it is definitely a thing that can be done. According to their article, you're cordially invited to our dry wedding. Hope you have fun. By Chavi Lieber. And you can see the mocktails. Looks pretty much just like sodas. You can see literal Sprite bottles here. I think that's a milkshake or a float over there. Yeah, I'm not as big a fan of sodas as I used to be. I'll enjoy it every now and then, but I don't buy it at the grocery store anymore. I think the last time I had soda was when I went to Blaze before the Museum of Science Adult Night. But before we get into more about this and find out what the Wall Street Journal has to say about dry weddings, and I just want to say up front, I can completely get behind, and more weddings should be dry because if you need alcohol to actually be able to enjoy a celebration, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of a polite way to put this. It's just sad. And if that offends you, I'm sorry you feel that way. But if you could just drop a like on your way out before leaving the video, it would mean a lot to me. Okay, it would probably be a dislike, but if you support my message of more alcohol-free weddings, be sure to give this video a like. Comment your thoughts on all this. If you want to say that I'm being judgmental, okay, people make judgments. I personally am not a fan of alcohol. I never will be, and I refuse to ever have events held in my name have alcohol. I never had a big graduation party for high school or college graduation because there was no way to get it to be held at any kind of venue like a VFW hall or something without alcohol being present. So I was like, fuck that. No, there will be no alcohol or no party. I made my choice and I stand by my decision to this day. And everyone I know knows better than to try and hold surprise parties for me because I have incredibly strict standards for what my name is associated with. You know what? Watch all the way to the end for me to tell you how I would react if somebody actually threw a surprise party for me and then had alcohol at it. Because I want to get into the article some point today. Gracie Jambroni is finalizing details for her October wedding. One thing she's known since the start, the party won't have any booze. If it's a day about us, it makes no sense to get alcohol, said Jambroni, a 35-year-old marketing professional in Tampa, Florida. Her fiance, a Marine veteran, doesn't drink, and she does on rare occasions. So Giambroni plans to splurge on other costs, like hiring chefs to live cook paella at an artisanal coffee bar. She said one friend joked about bringing a flask, which took her aback. Yeah, if someone even joked about that, they would be immediately uninvited if it were my thing. Like, I'm not taking chances. If you even joke about that, I'm not going to. You're not welcome to come to something in my name. Like, that's how serious I am. Or if you actually did bring it in, I'd politely escort you out and then vow to never talk to you again. And then just walk away, you know? Kind of like how when I got annoyed by the kids who were acting up on the train seat behind me. I just got up and moved to a different seat and left it at that. If you can't enjoy 4 hours without alcohol, that's a deeper issue that I can't fix, she said. Wow, you are speaking my language except for the part where you drink rarely. Honestly, if you could change that drinking rarely to drinking never, I might consider her a romantically viable option. Except because of the fact that she drinks rarely instead of never, she is not romantically viable. And if you're watching this, don't take it personally. I consider any woman whose answer to the question, do you drink alcohol, to if her answer is anything other than a hard no, she's no longer romantically viable in my opinion. And that applies to literally everyone. I have friends who drink, but they're grandfathered in under the old standard where I didn't care as much, but over the years I've become stricter and they respect the rules of my event and they don't complain about the absence of alcohol when I organize something. My family is from the Dominican Republic. We'll be dancing regardless. An open bar was once the sign of a great party, but in the age of loud and proud sobriety, alcohol is no longer a must-have for couples on their wedding day. Some are asking guests to sip on mocktails, coffee, and soda, and dance their hearts out stone cold sober. Speaking my language. This, unsurprisingly, has rankled people traveling from near and far to celebrate. Siobhan McCaffrey, an influencer in Atlanta, described a dry wedding she went to in Paris 2 years ago as the worst wedding I've ever been to. Oh, boo hoo. Your wedding is not only about you, McCaffrey, 29, said. It's also about making a good experience for the guests. That is true up to a certain point. But as I said earlier, and I'm going to say again, if I had to choose between no alcohol or no party, I would choose no party in a heartbeat. Most weddings are still boozy affairs. Only 6% of couples who responded to the annual survey of wedding planning website Zola said they'd be hosting a completely alcohol-free wedding in 2025. But wedding vendors say more couples are cutting back, as they should. There have never been this many sober guests here, said Lisa Carvea, co-owner of Cedar Lakes Estate, an events venue in upstate New York, where the number of couples paying for the addition of a zero-proof bar rose 56% this year. So you're telling me I could have had graduation parties at some kind of venue where I could have paid to not have the alcohol there? Oh well, what's done is done. As I said, made my choice. Stand by it. Carvea said most weddings at Cedar Lakes Estate still have alcohol, but people are drinking less. Oh, that brings joy to my heart. It's quite nice. You used to worry. Will they drunk swim in the lake? Carvea said. I don't worry about that as much anymore. See, why are we ever having to put ourselves in a position of worrying about that in the first place? That's what I'd like to know. And here's a picture of a mocktail. Liz Taylor, a luxury events planner in the UK, said she's seen a rise in semi-dry weddings on her side of the pond. They have to get up early to go play paddle, to hit the gym, so they want one glass of champagne, and then they move on to something non-alcoholic, Taylor said. Why even just the one glass of champagne at that point? Why not just go all in at that point on alcohol free? That's what I'd like to know. For some, a dry wedding is still very much considered taboo. The number one fear is how they will be perceived by their guests, said Lauren Ladocser, a wedding content creator who shoots iPhone footage for social media. Ladocser said she generally advises couples against cutting alcohol, unless it's for religious reasons or due to a substance abuse history. In weddings, there are societal norms and expectations for the host, and I do think that an open bar is part of that, Ladocere 28 said. Well, in that case, societal norms are wrong. As far as I'm concerned, all weddings should be dry, but that's beside the point. The point is, if the guests can't have a good time without it, then they're better off not being there. Like I said, the reason my friends are still my friends, despite the fact that they do drink, is because they respect me not drinking. And they also respect the rules when it's my event. Okay. One time, one of them actually did get a quick drink of alcohol at the movie theater while I went to the bathroom, but since he can't even remember which movie it was specifically, he can only remember the general time frame, so I can't pin down an exact date. And he told me about it years after the fact. I decided statute of limitations. It's not worth the argument because, well, he can't even remember which movie it was. So I can't pinpoint an exact date. Therefore, not worth destroying our friendship over it. A little disappointed, not gonna lie. But hey, at least he was honest about it. Eventually. Caroline Wimberly, who works in tech and lives in California, is so opposed to dry weddings that she's gotten into fights on TikTok about it. I think it's tacky and bad hosting, Wimberly, 31, said. She recalled a recent April wedding she attended in Palm Springs where an open bar helped a lively crowd dance until midnight. It comes down to what a party is, she said. You eat, you drink, you gather. But Shelby Lyons, a 20-year-old product software specialist in Vancouver, Washington, said she chose specifically to have a dry wedding last month to avoid drunk family members. She said some family complained when they saw the disclaimer on her invitation. But Lyons said her dance floor was lively and no one left early, her biggest fear. She said guests loved an Italian soda bar set up inside their barn reception. See, I think this is actually a good way to filter out who you actually want in your life and who you can say, who you can tell, in the wise words of Logan Roy, fuck off. Go watch Succession. It's a great show. And, oh no, that's not Shelby. In the interest of keeping his budget low, Nathaniel Lieberman, a couch business co-owner in Chester County, Pennsylvania, got married last September in a fire hall that cost $700 to book. It didn't allow alcohol on the premises, as more places should. Instead, he hired a coffee cart. He said he's not a big drinker, and neither is his wife or their friends. I grew up knowing that if I went hog wild drunk, it would be recorded and live on the internet forever, Lieberman, 27, said. That's Gen Z's anti-alcohol stance right there. Hey, if you're not like me and you aren't pathologically opposed to it because the effects on it don't make sense to you without the privacy of the internet, that's what I love about how the internet is bringing some healthy level of shame to it, where Zoomers understand that you do something like that and it gets recorded and it gets on the internet. You live there forever, just like the CEO and his mistress at the Coldplay concert. I'm sorry. I know that it's probably been run into the ground by the time this video comes out, but damn it, it is hilarious how that happened. It even got mentioned in the planetarium after the Music Under the Dome show that I went to at the museum's adult night. At the dinner reception for Joanna Flynn's May destination weddings in Iceland, guests sipped mocktails inspired by Brandon Sanderson, the couple's favorite sci-fi author, including a violet wine made with grape soda and blackberry syrup. For us, it was an easy decision because we don't drink that much in our normal lives, said Flynn, 24, a copywriter in Manchester, New Hampshire. The couple and their families covered lodging and meals for all their guests, so no one was too upset about the lack of liquor. See, this is why I would just pay for everything if I'm not offering any, or if my anti-alcohol stance is there. Hey, you got all this for free, but you can't be drinking. And here is Joanna Flynn's wedding. These are mocktails, apparently. To wrap up the article, Vicky Tejada, a human resources coordinator for theme parks in Orlando, is planning to throw a dry wedding at a garden venue in October. Tejada said she doesn't want alcohol around all the children, and is also worried about drunk driving near the venue's remote, winding roads. She knows some family members will resent her decision. I understand you want your drinky drinks, but get to know your nieces and nephews and just hang out, Tejada 35 said. And then you'll remember, oh, Uncle Johnny? He was really cool. In contrast to, oh, Uncle Johnny. That guy acted like a complete idiot at, what was her first? At Vicky's wedding. See, that's another reason. Drunk driving. I think that's the last paragraph with Vicky really hits it home for me for other reasons I don't want alcohol at things that are in my name. First of all, in the presence of children, setting a bad example, and then ignoring all my moral qualms. The drunk driving near the venue's remote winding roads. You know, do you really want your wedding night to be tainted by the fact that someone who drank at your wedding died as a result of their drunk driving, or that the someone's drunk driving after your wedding because your wedding had alcohol resulted in the death of someone completely unrelated to the situation or dragged into the situation, like the girl who was hit by the drunk driver in Sudden Impact, the video that we watched in health class, the one that got me so angry that I fainted right there in class because I was that angry, and it solidified my hatred of alcohol. See, ignore everything else I said about it. The drunk driving thing alone really makes me question why alcohol is even legal in the first place. You know, if you can't operate heavy machinery as a result of consuming something, maybe you shouldn't consume it in the first place. I know I'm coming off as a little judgmental, but you know what? If they're going to judge us not be for not engaging with that literal poison to the human body, I'm going to be a little judgmental myself. You're welcome to join me and let go of the substance, the poison to the human body. You're welcome to join me anytime in sobriety. And as long as you didn't drive drunk or anything like that, all will be forgiven. Seriously, though, I think that was an underlying reason for why I didn't want drinking at events held in my name when I was younger, and I'm solidifying it here and now. I don't want us, I would not want the good memories of anything like that tainted by someone driving drunk. So, you know what? I don't care what people say about dry weddings or the shame that they would try to throw at me. I firmly believe that all events like that should be dry because, one, people should be able to enjoy things without having to use a substance, and two, ignoring one completely, there's the practical thing about avoiding drunk driving. You don't want it associated with that. It would literally ruin the whole thing. Not to mention, it would ruin or end the lives of other people involved in it. Okay, I think I need to wrap up the video here before I pass out from rage again. But going back to what I said earlier about how I would handle someone bringing in alcohol to an event where I explicitly said there is to be no alcohol, I would just tell them to leave I would avoid making a scene. I would just quietly walk them to the exit and I would tell them, I never want to talk to you again. And then they would just leave and that would be the end of it. There would be no shouting. There would be nothing worthy of the Jerry Springer show. Just a calm but firm excommunication from my life. That would be it. I'd go no contact with them from there. That would be the end of it. So yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here before I pass out from rage again. Don't forget to give this video a like. Comment what you think about all this, whether you agree with anything here, or if you think I'm being a little judgmental. I know I came off as a little judgmental here, but look, I'm tired of alcohol being propped up as this great thing. It's literal poison to the human body. I put up with my friends drinking when it's their event, their rules. I'm not going to try and enforce my will on those. As I said in previous videos, I know that my options are to either go and put up with it or don't go and leave it at that. However, the reason they are still my friends is because they respect my wishes for things that I organize to not include drinking in any capacity, for which I am grateful. And if you're one of my friends, my Henriotti, watching this, I just want to say thank you for respecting that boundary after all these years. I know again I came off as kind of harsh in this video, but I strongly believe that I am strongly opposed to alcohol in general. And I hope that those of you watching who have been sober curious join me in sobriety. And don't forget to subscribe for daily videos of cultural commentary from a man caught between generations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.